In 2019, Anthony Fauci conducted an interview with the news organization Bloomberg. This interview covered various topics, including pandemics and infectious diseases. It's important to note that this interview took place months before the worldwide COVID-19 pandemic really took root. In this interview, he was asked by the interviewer to provide the best way to avoid getting an infectious disease that requires medical intervention. And I found the answer both interesting and very revealing, to say the least, as the answer lines up with the health laws that we are very familiar with. Take a look.
And the best way for me to prevent getting an infectious disease and having to have you as my doctor is what? Wearing a mask?
No.
Don't you do that? If somebody's, I can see they're ready to sneeze or cough, walk away.
You avoid all the paranoid aspects and do something positive. A, good diet. B, you don't smoke, I know. I know you don't drink, at least not very much, so that's pretty good. Get some exercise. I know that you don't get as much exercise as you should.
That's correct.
Get good sleep. I think that the normal, low-tech, healthy things are the best thing that you can do, David, is stay healthy.
All right, well, I'm going to try to do that, and hopefully when I next see you, I will be even healthier than I am today.
There you have it. Avoid the paranoia and do something positive. I agree with those statements wholeheartedly. And what did he say to do? A, a good diet. B, don't smoke and don't drink, otherwise known as temperance. C, get some exercise. And D, get good sleep. These are the things that he said are the best steps that you can do to stay healthy. And when you add this to the fact that Anthony Fauci told Matthew McConaughey that sunlight kills COVID-19, and we know that in order to get sunshine, you need to be outside where the fresh air is, you have 6 of the 8 laws of health. As I have always said and will continue to say, whether you're vaccinated or not, the health message is critical for everyone who wants to avoid serious COVID outcomes. We cannot abandon what we know to be God's ideal plan to maintain health at this particular time in Earth's history, especially since the United States, which is one of the unhealthiest countries in the world, has been ravaged by COVID, largely due to the standard American diet. In Health-demic Episode 5, we take a look at how this happened and what we can do to lower the risks for severe disease. As usual, the video you're about to see is also posted on our Valid Reason channel if you'd like to share that with people of other faiths and non-faiths. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to this channel and the Valid Reason channel linked in the description below to get updates. All right, enough of that. Let's roll the tape.
Bacon, bacon, bacon. Everybody loves bacon. Bacon! Everyone's favorite treat, yeah!
According to Britannica.com, coulrophobia is an irrational fear of clowns that causes panic and nausea. In my opinion, this fear is not irrational. As a matter of fact, one could argue that one particular clown is possibly responsible for the untimely deaths of millions of Americans. Nope, not that one. Nope, not him either. There he is. I'm talking about Ronald McDonald. We haven't seen him in a while, but for decades, he was the face of the McDonald's franchise that lured millions of boys and girls into the fast food life. Many of those healthy boys and girls would eventually become part of the hundreds of thousands of people that have died from COVID-19. Now, of course, we're not blaming Ronald McDonald for everything. We aren't blaming the Burger King either for all of the negative COVID outcomes. But as you're about to see, the numbers are too clear to ignore. In this article from CNBC, it highlighted a report from the CDC which states that about 78% of the people in the United States who have been hospitalized, needed a ventilator, or died from COVID-19 have been overweight or obese. Just think about that for a moment. 78%. Since the COVID-19 vaccines have been released, one of the main talking points has sounded like this.
99.5% of all the deaths to COVID are in unvaccinated people.
Today we're asking, Corona and the 4th wave, a pandemic for the unvaccinated?
There is a clear message that is coming through. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
We're still in a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
That's what we keep hearing over and over again. This has become a pandemic of the unvaccinated. However, this does not paint the picture exactly as it should be. The real headline should be that from the very beginning of this crisis, this has been a pandemic of the unhealthy. According to this report from 2018, almost 43% of the people in the United States over 20 years old are obese, and almost 74% of the population is either overweight or obese. And here's some more numbers. According to the CDC, more than 100 million Americans have diabetes or prediabetes. That's almost 1/3 of the entire U.S. population. And to add to this, nearly half of the population has some type of heart disease. These numbers are key to understanding why the United States, despite being one of the most developed countries in the world, is also the world leader in serious COVID outcomes, including death. And the reason for this is that just like most Americans, COVID-19 loves junk food. COVID loves fries, hot dogs, pizzas, hamburgers, just to mention a few things, in addition to all of the other items that make up the standard American diet. In this article from S.T.A.R.T News, 92.3 FM, Dr. Dariush Mozaffarian said that I think, beyond a doubt, that poor nutrition has contributed to more severe COVID outcomes, more hospitalizations, and more deaths. The article referenced a study conducted by Dr. Mozaffarian, which estimated that 2/3 of COVID-19 hospitalizations were due to 4 conditions: obesity, hypertension, diabetes, and heart failure, in that order. So, the question begs to be asked, where is the national campaign for education and funding to work to lower these outcomes? Where are the news pundits discussing this every day on the news? Well, they actually did discuss it for a day or two in August of 2020, when the CDC reported that 94% of the people that died from COVID-19 had pre-existing health conditions.
The CDC now says almost all of the people who died from COVID-19 in the U.S. had underlying health conditions. Now, according to a new report, only 6% of deaths have COVID-19 listed as the only cause. 94% of patients had other health conditions. The CDC says some of the most common ones include influenza, respiratory failure, pneumonia, diabetes, and heart failure. Now, according to Johns Hopkins University, the U.S. has the highest total number of COVID-19 cases right now at nearly 6 million.
The problem is that just as soon as it was discussed in the news, it went and disappeared. But I never forgot it, and neither should you. I want you to take a moment and imagine that we lived in a land where people didn't eat like this, a land where 74% of the people weren't overweight, where 50% of the people didn't have heart disease, and where 1/3 of the people didn't have diabetes. A land where gyms were recognized as an essential service and fast food restaurants were not. You see, in that world, maybe those 94% of people that died from COVID would never have had pre-existing conditions. And instead of almost 700,000 deaths from COVID, maybe it's 30,000. If that were the case, then this may not have even been called a pandemic. But is that just a fairy tale? Is that even possible in this country where there's a fast food restaurant everywhere you look? With the media constantly tempting you to eat fast food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? The answer is yes. You can change your lifestyle and overcome the health-demic of diabetes, obesity, and heart disease. And we saw it in episode 2 of this series when we looked at the blue zone in the United States in Loma Linda, California, that has a high concentration of Seventh-day Adventists that are part of the longest living people in the world. A major reason for this is that this group of people follows a largely plant-based lifestyle that keeps them free from the lifestyle diseases that are adding fuel to the COVID fire. One of the main things that's been discussed over and over again on the news is the efficacy of vaccines at significantly lowering the risk of hospitalization and death. Well, based on the numbers from these peer-reviewed scientific articles, the argument can also be made that living a healthier lifestyle, free from these lifestyle diseases, is just as efficacious at lowering your risk for hospitalization and death. Take a look at this article referencing a study of thousands of medical professionals from 6 countries. These people are exposed to COVID-19 every day. This study looked at the eating habits of this group of people and found that vegetarians had a 73% lower risk of moderate to severe symptoms. And those that were pescatarian, and no, that's not a religion, pescatarian means that the only meat they eat is fish, This group had a 59% lower risk of developing moderate to severe COVID symptoms. What this means is that if you avoid meat or completely remove meat from your diet, then you're giving yourself a much better chance of not having severe COVID outcomes. According to Dr. Mosafarian, the reason for this is because COVID-19 is not just a virus that attacks the lungs like a normal flu virus. COVID-19 is a virus that attacks the blood vessels and causes really excess inflammation. And so it's like pouring gasoline on the fire. The unhealthy lifestyle that we've embraced as a society is causing Americans and those around the world that have embraced the Western dietary lifestyle to have inflamed bodies that are primed and ready for COVID and other diseases to wreak havoc, which is why the United States is leading the world in COVID deaths. So what does this mean for you and I? Well, it means that when the Hamburglar was coming to steal those burgers and we thought that Ronald McDonald was a hero for bringing them back to us, we were sadly mistaken. We should have gone right ahead and let him steal those burgers, along with the health issues that come along with it. So, where do you start? You can start by getting educated on and embracing a plant-based diet. And no, contrary to popular belief, it does not look like this. But it can and does look like this. When the pandemic first started, I went to my local Target on March 22nd, 2020, and I took footage of the empty toilet paper aisles. While I was there, I also noticed that the meat aisles were almost empty. Everyone was stocking up on the very meats that, according to the study we just reviewed, would make it more likely to have severe COVID. And the interesting thing is that smack dab in the middle of all the missing beef were the plant-based substitutes that, while not perfect, are certainly better for your overall health. Today, I just need you to know that you have options and that you don't have to live in fear, because you have power today to start making choices in your lifestyle to lower your risk. If you're interested and need help, check the description below to find out how you can get help to begin your journey to a healthy and abundant lifestyle. And don't forget to subscribe to get updates on future videos. Hope to see you again in our next episode. And remember, take care and stay healthy. And oh yeah, also remember, be very afraid of clowns.